And just so everybody knows, the meeting is being taped, and if anybody else's video, just let us know. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, flag to the left. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and just for the record, if anybody in the audience has any questions, just always raise your hand and we'll call on you. It was brought to my attention last time that somebody had a question, and they were afraid to say anything. So anybody can just raise their hand and we'll call on you.
State the name and address.
State their name and address, yes. Formal. Okay. All right. Minutes from the last meeting. Inez.
So, yeah, I had a couple of things on this. In transportation update, in the middle of the first paragraph, where it states Mr. Wells, Mrs. O'Neill, and Wendy, we should clarify who Wendy is there. We should have her last name and what she does, just so it's clear who we're talking about.
Yeah, that first paragraph.
Oh, yeah, okay.
In the beginning of the fifth paragraph, Mr. Savas suggested that we go back from the recent date of pay to ride and eliminate busing. That is actually not what I suggested. What I suggested was that if to eliminate the possibility of adding an extra bus, that we would take the present time and go backwards and eliminate people who had paid late to the point where we were no longer in need of an extra bus.
So in other words,
So-
pay and ride based upon the, if you will, when they signed up.
It's first come, first served, yeah, other than obviously the mandated, the legally mandated.
Can we just put it down as potentially look at first come, first serve?
Yeah, that's just to clarify, but that's, because it sounds like I said we should just limit busing. I'm not dismissing that possibility, but I'm just saying.
Was that it?
Yeah, that's it.
So can we make a motion to approve the minutes with those changes just discussed?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
As
Do
amended.
you want to make a motion?
So,
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, off to a good start.
Joe, I can sign this one, right?
Yep.
Even though we-
Okay, warrants, Kathleen?
I have reviewed and signed the following warrants, and I am entering them into record. June 18th, $426,726.37. June 28th, $484,151.06. July 25th, $444,096.34. July 23rd, $176,307.76. August 13th, $198,773.39, and August 28th, $141,873.01.
Okay, all right, hi, student rep update.
All right, so the senior cruise for the seniors, obviously, happened last Monday night, and I saw some photos on Twitter, and it looked like it was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to being able to do it next year.
It was fun. It was fun.
It was fun, for the record.
Oh,
We had a great
that's
time.
good. Thank you
Yeah.
for
My ankles are still bothering me.
too much dancing.
Yes.
I was boogieing it up. You got it.
All right, all the sports teams are doing pretty well. Both soccer teams are doing really great. Girls varsity has records of 3 wins and only 1 loss, and the boys varsity team is undefeated.
What?
Yeah, and they're both girls and boys soccer games tomorrow night. I think the girls is at 5:30 and the boys are at 6:30. Girls volleyball is doing really well also. They're playing right now, and they have 3 wins and 1 loss. And there's also a game tomorrow night at 6:30. And the varsity golf team is undefeated. Other than that, basically everybody still kind of is settled in. You know, school year's going fairly smoothly, no hiccups yet.
Great.
So, yeah, all good.
All right. Any questions, comments? All right, thanks, Cooper. So are you flying solo now, or did you have somebody else?
No, Caroline actually, last meeting, her ankle was sprained and she couldn't make it. And tonight, this is her first volleyball game back.
Oh, okay.
So for the rest of the year, she should be good.
All right, I have to tell her we were thinking about her. All right, thank you. Opening a school report for the middle school, Mr. Hayward and Mr. Goldstein. Hey, guys.
Hello. Open the school report. So, Norton Middle School opened up.
Thanks for coming.
So, 595 students, 71 teachers and staff and one mission, just have the greatest middle school we can have. Make sure everyone feels safe and secure and just keep doing amazing things. We started the first day even before. Teachers put all this chalk stuff on, put a lot of pictures of it on Twitter.
Love that.
Really trying to make everyone feel welcome, connected to the school, and then once that happens, we connect them to their learning. Okay, and we welcome some new staff to the school. So this is a picture I believe Mrs. Winsper took. And our middle school staff definitely stood out, which is just what we're looking for. When we interview, we always talk about finding the right fit for Norton Middle School. And they seem to have been fitting in quite well so far. So first up, I'll introduce Lars Tanglin. Lars is right here. Lars is a graduate from North Park University where he earned his undergraduate degree in history. Lars then moved on to Fitchburg State University to complete his graduate degree. Lars did his student teaching right here in Norton at the high school. Additionally, Lars had stints as a substitute teacher at Norton High School, followed by one here at the middle school. He's also worked at Bristol Plymouth Regional Technical High School. Lars is an accomplished athlete, as you can tell. He played competing in javelin throw for 13 years. He finished 11th at the USA Nationals this past year, 2018. He coached track and field at Norton High School from 2013 to 2017, the throwing events. He's been coaching track and field at Wheaton College since 2016 with the javelin throw. He's a member of the Evangelical Covenant Church in Attleboro, and he works as the youth leader in the high school youth group. Lars is the epitome of hashtag NMS Lancers lead, having gone to Norton Middle School and been on 7 White, and now
Oh,
he's a
wow.
7th grade social studies teacher. So we're glad to have him back, and I'm going to introduce him as new staff, but he really has deep roots and strong connections, and already was part of it. Last year, one of the things Lars did that stood out immediately to me was last year when he was just a long-term sub. He didn't work long-term sub hours. He was here after school. He showed up to dances. I mean, I think every dance that you came onto the middle school, he was there. And, those are the above and beyond things that we look for. So we're glad to have Lars. Next up, thanks, Lars. You can say anything if you want.
No.
Okay.
Covered it all.
All right. So next up is Hannah Patriquin. Hannah is the new 6th grade Academics in Action teacher, ELA. She attended Bridgewater State University. Prior to Norton Middle School, she taught 7th and 8th grade at King Philip Middle School. Hannah has volunteered for local charities, including Big Brothers and Big Sisters, Father Bill's in Brockton, and the Special Olympics in Bridgewater, Mass. So far, she tells me she's enjoying teaching here, and I've been in the room, I've been in even just walking into Hannah's room so far, only a couple weeks in. Even if she wasn't there, no kids there, if you walk into the room, you know this is an engaging teacher that's really student-centered, lots of student work up already. So she's doing a great job, and she's already making a positive impact and fits in great on that 6-white team. So, Hannah Patrick, welcome. And last but not least, Andrew Strauss. He's in grade 6 science. Andrew, when I interviewed Andrew, so I interviewed him, and then he was getting married like the next 3 days later.
I'm sorry. Katie, congratulations.
I think I gave him some advice, but anyway. But I got a really good thing. So I was like, I gotta call this guy before he goes on his honeymoon. Gotta lock him in. Science is tough to get. But Andrew, back to the intro. Andrew graduated from UMass Amherst in 2011 with a bachelor's in political science. Prior to joining the Norton Middle School team, he was a building substitute at Wareham Middle School for 2016-17 school year. And then during the 17-18 school year, he did long-term substints in grade 6 science and grade 8 science. Had a glowing recommendation when I called and did the reference check. And I know they definitely would have wanted to give him a job, so I'm glad we took him. Andrew's also, just an interesting fact, he spent 3 months teaching English and science in Ghana.
Wow.
So, interesting experience. And he's currently taking graduate classes at Bridgewater State, and he's about to complete his STEM graduate certificate program. We've added some pretty good people to the staff. Thanks, guys. So that's the new staff. Okay.
We're staying on.
Stay up there, guys. You can say something. Okay, all right. So one of the things we did in Norton Middle School, if you want to check it out down in the rotunda, all the staff made these puzzle pieces to open the school year. Again, part of, at Norton Middle School, we all fit, we're all connected, and we all have a place in the piece. Mr. Goldstein, you're supposed to have a hook. So we did this interesting thing, kind of gave the staff a homework assignment where they had to do personality puzzle pieces, really just had to pick things and answer kind of something off their bucket list, something that they're passionate about, interested in. And eventually the kids, through their health and wellness course, we've added some time to those classes this year. They're going to do their own puzzle pieces. So it's this thing, the assignment that the staff did, students are gonna do, and again, we all fit, we're all connected, we all have a place in the future at the school. And they're really interesting, so check those out in the rotunda. Our athletics have kicked off, coming off a very successful season. I'm not gonna read, but here are all the girls who made the team. We did have to have cuts, like 35, 36 for the boys and girls soccer teams, have to try it out. But we kept a pretty good team, but even the kids who got cut probably would make a pretty good team. The girls had their first game today. We've had a lot of rainouts, and they got in the win column right away. And boys soccer, they also started today. They didn't get a win right away, but the coach, Cam Moitoza, says that they're looking pretty good, and they have a nice group, he said. He thinks he's gonna have fun with this group this year. And our cross-country team, I think they had, I wanna say 71 or 72 kids on the team. So it's another huge team. They were undefeated the past 2 seasons, hadn't lost a match. I told the coach when he told me about the number of kids, I said, great, 3 in a row, it's gonna be awesome, go for it. They lost their first one. I put the jinx on it, but they're looking to get back in the win column. And again, even with that running, it's really like, they've had great years, but they probably would have had great years if they were at 500. All the kids are competing, and it's great to see kids up at the high school who started here, like Bella and Paul Wisnauskas and some of these great runners who I always read their names on the announcements here. So it's nice seeing them on Twitter up at the high school. And our clubs and activities have kicked off. I highlighted one of our new clubs, which is going to be a drone club. And then we have all these other things. So signups are going on for that right now. We've got a lot of memberships. I think we've got student council, video production, community service, a couple other informational meetings to take place, but I think we're going to have a pretty big turnout in all our clubs. And those are just some examples of the hands-on activities and the stuff that, when I was in high school, I'd always show, I'm not going to fake being sick today, I get gym class, or we got a game after school. For a lot of kids, they come because they know it's robotics. So I see them really dragging themselves in, sick or not, because they really look forward to the end of the day. In some cases, the morning, but they get here. And the thing that we're continuing this year, we started last year, is our Culture Climate Initiative. If you're on Twitter, you see that we give a shirt away every day. Stu Cal helped raise that money through our dance proceeds and things like that. But we start each day really just talking about being kind, being respectful, staff, students, each other, being responsible for your actions and effort. Always preach that, responsible for your actions and effort. And then kind of be better is something we came up with when we instituted this, is really just about like the power of yet, like fall down 7, get up 8, kind of the mantra that I try to promote to all the students. It's just about feeling fast, feeling forward, and just moving on and learning from mistakes. Oops. And then we're going to do some more in the middle this year and kind of communicate and share our story. We do that through a lot of social media. We did 20 episodes last year, so we're going to branch out. We get some ideas, and we're going to do some more this year. And that's Norton Middle School, the start of the school year.
That's great. Yeah, I just have to say, I first of all want to thank the teachers who came and did the sidewalk art for that was fantastic, and to see that all over social media was really huge. And welcome to the 3 of you. It's nice to, I have a 7th grader at the middle school, so it's nice to see new staff and, welcome. We hope you guys enjoy your time here. And I just have to say, the middle school to me I've enjoyed it. I really have. This is my 4th year in the middle school. I think what you guys both bring and your staff is just amazing. For kids that are in 6th to 8th grade, where it can be kind of trying years for kids and parents, you guys do an amazing job. So I just want to thank you guys and the staff and for all that you guys do.
Well, we've
It's
got
great.
good teachers and we get good
Yeah.
support from the administration, and really, like, the parents, I get tons of good support. I get people who don't like everything too.
Right,
We get tons of support from the parents, and they send us great kids, so
yeah,
I'm glad it's looking good from the other
yeah,
side.
it really is.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna jump to the unified basketball. So we'll have Mr. Sumner, the AD from the high school, and then Nicole Nunes, the PE teacher at Norton High School, and the unified coach. Welcome.
There's a handout for you that we copied to let you know.
All right, so we're here to, I guess, request permission to add a unified basketball team to the athletic department. We added unified track and field in the spring, and it was a huge success. So we're going to go into a little bit more about that, just a quick video.
The right to play on any playing field, you have earned it. The right to hold a job, you have earned it. The right to study in any school, you have earned it. The right to be anyone's neighbor, you have earned it. You have taught us that what matters is not power or politics, weapons or wealth. What truly counts is the courageous spirit and the generous heart. The days of separation and segregation are over.
So that's pretty much why we're here, the Inclusion Revolution. We want to offer as many extracurriculars as we possibly can for every single student in the school. Last year, we were considered a unified champion school in the state. We met 3 different areas to qualify for that. We had unified track and field, and we had unified leadership physical education class. Our inclusive youth leadership programs included Best Buddies, Student Council, and DECA. And we did a whole school engagement. We did the R-Word pledge, fans in the stands at our track meets, and multiple awareness days. So we were able to meet that. Super proud of the kids who were involved in this. It's a huge deal for our school for sure. That's our unified track team that won the D2 South Championship in our first year. So, reaching for higher goals, we met the Unified Champion School. This year, I'd like to try and be a national banner school, but in order to do so, we need to meet the following 10 requirements. We currently already meet 8 out of 10. So in order to be a banner school, what Norton needs to focus on is being officially recognized by the school, so all sports teams fall under the varsity category, and stipend position. And it has to be self-sustainable. So we did receive a grant last year from SOMA, and then we'll receive another $1,000 this year. However, in our 3rd year, the grant, we should be self-sustained. The grant is no longer valid for us. So it's a 3-year grant, 3-year process. So hopefully we're in the process of becoming self-sustaining.
Can you clarify that number 4? What does that mean exactly? So we have to officially recognize it in a similar style? Like, what does that mean?
So basically what they want is, they don't want the unified team to be separate from your other teams. Meaning, if we fund all the other teams, we should be funding that team. It shouldn't be looked at as something that's different. That's the whole point, is it should be the same as the other sports and recognized the same way.
Okay.
So that's where we can't not pay the coach
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
But if we're not paying coach, then we're looking at it differently.
Right.
We're considering it something else.
So, and it fits perfectly into what you've established, actually, and it just goes because of, I guess, maybe the draw or the luck, which is you've recognized other teams in the past that were varsity programs that took 3 years to be self-sustained within the budget. It's the same idea here.
Yeah.
We just happen to be lucky enough to have a grant that helps us support that.
Okay.
So,
So again, just our track team from last year, very first time doing it, we had 22 students come out. And we came home with 4 individual state champions. We were second in the state for D2 schools, and we won the South Championship. So that's us at the state meet. This is our tentative schedule for basketball. We've already been in contact with some schools. So we have 3 away games, 2 home games, and then a bunch of South League participants. I was at a coaching clinic this past Sunday at Holy Cross, and I found out that there were 23 teams last year, that schools in the state that had unified basketball. We're up to 55 this year. So it's a huge jump from last year. So general timeline, super quick turnaround. Practice needs to start on Monday.
No pressure.
We're gonna finalize the schedule by the first week in October, and then the games start the week after. I had an informational meeting yesterday, and we have 15 to 20 students that are interested in participating in basketball. The average number is 8 to 15, so we'll work with those numbers.
All right, for the finances, this number here
It's high to net.
is a high number, right? But I didn't want to come in here and say, oh, it's gonna cost $2,000, and then at the end of the year, I say, oh, all right, it cost $5,500. This is a high number. If we look at a coach, we based it on the middle school basketball coach, which is $3,700. An assistant coach, which me and Nicole have already talked about, there's ways we can work around that number to make something more feasible. Maybe it's someone who's helping out at just the games and they're getting almost like a site supervisor type stipend. We could do something like that. Bus to meets, that's a high estimate, but again, we could take the minibus for that, depending on the number of kids. If we take the minibus, that number goes down significantly, and we're really paying for gas. And a coach or someone like myself could drive, or an assistant could drive. Uniforms and equipment, we're really gonna save money here because we're gonna use the basketball uniforms for the current teams, which both coaches have already agreed to that. It's not an issue at all. No paid officials required at games because Mr. Liberatore has volunteered to referee all the games. So that's been great. Again, using the minibus, I think there's ways, just looking quickly, I could probably take $3,500 off of that right away. But again, this is a high estimate. Also, we want to look at fundraising, which we talked about. Casey Bortolotti has also talked about helping us with the fundraising. She's already volunteered to run the booster club for this. So that's where we're looking. We're willing to go out, get donations. We really want this to happen. I want this to happen. I would sacrifice things in my budget to make this happen. So that's where I stand on this.
So just a question for you. I love this idea. I'll just start with that. So the grant pays for what then?
Whatever, it's coach's discretion. So whatever,
It's just an amount.
like,
Okay, so what is the amount that the grant,
so last year for track, we received a $2,000 grant.
Okay.
Second year in a sport is a $1,000 grant. If you add an additional sport, so basketball will get 1,000, track and field will get 1,000 from last year's grant.
okay,
But because we added a sport, we'll get $1,000 for basketball. But next year, there's no more grant.
okay, so even this year though, you still have a gap where you're trying to make up money
Yes.
to run this program for this year? Because, you know, my thought is, and, you know, we need to have the conversation, last year boys volleyball came in front of us and they were gonna be, you know, self-pay, and we decided to put it into the budget because it is a sport. So is that something that we can just do with this as well?
Again, it's all about the priority. I mean, if that's our priority, absolutely,
Right.
you know, we could try to make it work. I think that one of the things that I think is important is just the equity of how we do this. So this is a bigger equity question because we're trying to start something that really supports our students and makes them feel part of our student athletic community. Yeah, we could try to make it work.
I think we need to really think about that, because we did it for boys volleyball just whenever they came in front of us.
Yeah, so with respect to equity, I mean, this is the second sport.
Right.
I think we're still far away from equitable, and I'm not overly worried about that, quite honestly. I do have a couple of questions. So if we have grant funding, does that then interfere with the National Unified
Yeah.
Planner School option? Do we have to fund it under our budgets? In other words, are we allowed to take grants and still
Yes.
Yes.
qualify
We
with
take a
number
grant
4?
this year,
Yeah,
but then it has to
it's
be
coming from the
self-sufficient.
Okay, so it doesn't
Yeah,
miss
it's
that.
from Special Olympics Massachusetts.
All right, and my second question is, why do we have to start practice on the 24th?
That's just when the season starts.
Okay, so there's no like rule that has to start? Because my only concern here, and I can tell you right now, there's zero chance I'm not voting for this, but do we have an amended agenda that has this on it? So we can't vote on this, so it's not on the agenda.
You can, if it's reasonably anticipated within 24 hours.
So we're gonna vote on this under
Under
other
other.
business?
Correct.
Right.
I'm fine
And the
with
reason
that.
for that
Right.
is because it was a miscommunication, but AD's
Hey,
office. and
I've seen other things under
And
other
because-
business that had no
Right.
business being there. I'm
Right.
fine with it.
And we
Okay.
just moved it up from, I probably should have said that to start, we
That's
moved it up from other, but so that they didn't have to
absolutely
stay the
fine.
whole meeting if they didn't want to.
My questions are done. I think the price is reasonable. I think you were saying 3,500 you get off there. I think the 7,500 is quite reasonable, quite frankly.
Right.
I think it sounds like an excellent program. I couldn't support it more. My only concern was the open meeting law, so.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great, and just because I have a freshman this year at the high school, do you guys look for volunteers? Like, do you need volunteers to help with this? And how do kids get involved?
Come find me.
Come find you?
Yep.
Okay.
See, for every athlete, you need a partner, at least one, so that's how that works.
Oh, so it's one-to-one?
Yeah.
Not, well, it has to be at least one-to-one.
They recommend 1-to-1, track we were 2-to-1.
Okay,
So an athlete with a disability to 2 athletes without a
Yeah,
disability.
there's one thing
Okay.
about Norton Public Schools we don't have to worry about, and especially at Norton High School. Our kids are fantastic. I just saw it the other night at the senior cruise. We are not worried about having our students be involved with a program like this
Right.
at all.
and if for the away games, do the kids, like if the volunteers, do they go with them on the bus, or do parents have to get the kids there?
That was probably something.
It's really gonna depend on the number.
Okay,
You know, if we're taking the minibus, we're kind of capped at 13, 14
okay,
students, which is about where we're at now, for signups roughly. But
Yeah.
I know, once we get going, that number's gonna go up.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right,
Sorry, I'm gonna miss this, but you do not have cuts, correct?
yeah, I was wondering that too, okay. All right, I think it's great. So we have to vote on this.
I would recommend a vote of approval of unified
Unified
basketball
basketball.
as part of our unified athletic program.
Okay, so is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Okay.
want to play basketball.
Sounds like a
Betcha.
plan.
You got it.
Yeah, we'll come see you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys very much for
Thank
bringing
you.
this to us. This is great.
Lovely.
All right, so next, AP exam results from Mrs. O'Neill.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to share some data on the most recent administration of the AP tests at Norton High School. In May of 2018, we had 186 students take 321 AP exams, which is a huge number when we think about the number of students that we have at our high school. 68% of our students received a qualifying score of 3 or better. And of those 68%, 35% of those were a score of 4 or 5. One of the biggest benefits for our students in taking AP at the high school is that many of them are able to take those credits and apply them to their college career. And therefore, in the past, we've had students that have graduated a whole semester early because of the credits that they've had. I also just wanted to highlight just a couple things. The largest number of exams we had was in the psychology department. We had 84 students take the AP Psych exam. And the second largest was in U.S. history. We had 58 students take the U.S. history exam. I also wanted to note that we had 2 of our students take the AP drawing portfolio, and both of those students received a 5, which is the highest score that you can receive on an AP exam. Just a few other notes for you, things that stood out. When it comes to biology, 89% of our students had a passing rate of 3, 4, or 5, where the national average is only 61.2. So you can see our students there in the biology program were far and away above the national average. And the other item I wanted to share with you is with the AP US History. The global average was 52%, so our students were about 20 points above that average as well. One of the things we really try to do in Norton is make sure that our AP programs are inclusive for all of our students. If they want to go out and challenge themselves, we encourage them to take the course and then see how well they do on the test. So it's really encouraging to see so many students with these qualifying scores.
That's great. It's very impressive.
Just curious, how come we don't offer physics?
Physics is actually our introductory course for all of our freshmen in grade 9. So they all take the introduction to physics in grade 9.
That's what I'm asking. How
Yeah,
come we
but-
don't offer AP?
That's a great question. Well, I'll talk to Lauren and see if we can get you some more information about that.
I'm just
But-
curious.
We've alternated in some
Yeah.
of our AP
Oh,
classes
yeah.
through the years. And if I remember correctly, we go on and on year, off year with
Right,
with
especially with the
physics.
sciences, because there are so many that are offered.
Mm.
For example, AP Environment is another course that runs typically every other year. So students, when it is offered, they have to get in on that if
Yeah.
they wanted to participate. So
When I was a
there's-
kid, there were like 3. That was it.
I know, I think there were
This
2
was like
when I was in
physics-
high
It
school.
was physics,
so.
chemistry, biology, and it might have been English, and that was it.
Right.
It was an
Yeah.
abacus too.
Right.
Right.
I chiseled my answers in stone. Wrote my dinosaur home.
All right, any other questions about that?
This is impressive.
Great, yeah,
Very
definitely,
impressive.
yeah. All right,
Thank you.
transportation update, Mr. Wells.
So we continue to work on leveling the bus loads as the priority with all the routes. I think we had mentioned last time that we had contacted Bloom about adding another bus and seeing what the cost would that be. We have tried to reach out to them a couple of times, and they're just not getting back to us on it. So we've come up with a kind of a different solution. We took 2 of our routes that had low ridership, and we've kind of reworked both those routes. We put a larger load onto one of them, and we were able to send a 3rd bus over to the Norton Glen, which is where we have a lot of our capacity issues. By doing this and combining, and with this also, we're going to be assigning stops and buses to the students in the Glen. So we're going to be able to level the riderships off at somewhere in the high 40s to low 50s. So we're going to get everything down to where it's a very much more comfortable load on the bus, and hopefully it'll kind of sit there. So since the last meeting, we've also been checking students as they come on the bus. We're asking for their bus passes just to see who has them. And at the same time, we're recording students that don't have those bus passes. So we've had about 5 buses that have reported so far. We have 53 students on those 5 buses that do not have bus passes and have not registered with us. So we still have a lot of ridership of students that are not registered. This has also pushed people to register. So over the past couple of days, we've had 19 new registrations.
Of the 53, do we have kind of a thought on where they fall in the mandated versus non-mandated?
Haven't really looked at that yet. We're still this is all fairly new data that's coming into us, so
Okay.
As we get it in, and some of these,
We'll
some of them are
collect that for
starting to
you.
register, we're getting it all together.
All right, I'm making the assumption that someone who's not mandated, hasn't registered, hasn't paid, is no longer being allowed on the bus.
That's the next step, because
Okay.
we have the opportunity to say to families that there is no space on this bus, or we have the other opportunity, which is to say, well, you owe us, potentially, we're going to be looking at asking parents that in order for your child to get on the bus, you owe us for last year as well. That could happen. So, and the policy allows for us to do
I
that.
have no issue with that at all.
Yep.
So that's actually kind of a good point. We're at that stage right now where we need to talk about where we're going with the bus passes. So we have kind of 2 things we're looking for guidance for. One is we've already had some students contacting us with lost passes. So, I mean, it doesn't cost us a ton to actually produce these passes, but at some point, we probably should come up with a fee structure. Maybe after we'll replace one, and then after that one,
Right.
you got to start kicking in a little bit.
Right.
And the second piece would be, we might want to pick a date where we say, okay, now ridership is, you need to have a bus pass to be on the bus. So we would pick all the students up the first day, bring them to school, and then in the afternoon, we would say, only bus passes are on, and then that would kind of trigger that date. then from that date forward, you would have to have the bus pass to get on.
I agree, I think that needs to happen, because you guys started so much earlier this year, so bus passes were given out so much earlier.
Yeah.
Because we can't have this happening again. We can't have parents not registering or trying to register the last few days of summer before school starts. Just can't. So I think we need to have that date, and then kids will have to sit at school for parents to come and get them. There has to be some consequences for, this put a tremendous amount of pressure on all of you, and it's just, it's not fair.
I agree.
So what date do we want?
Are you looking to us to look at it?
So we kind of threw out October 1st. It gives another
Yeah.
week still. We can send some communications out next week.
Mhm.
They're kind of getting the message, we're checking the passes at this point, so it shouldn't be too much of a surprise that
We're
we're
gonna
going
find with September 1st.
I know, right? I know.
I think that's more than generous.
Yeah, I think it's,
frankly.
I agree. But I think that's a fine date to pick. We'll do that.
So do we need to do something?
Yeah, do we need to,
We would ask you to vote on it.
Okay.
To assure that that's the procedure that we use, that the policy's in place, but what you're giving us is the go-ahead that if somebody challenges us, we can say, it was a vote of the Norton School Committee that we moved forward in this and we're implementing it.
okay.
Sorry, but.
So do we have a motion to pick
October
1st?
So moved.
Okay, second? All in favor?
Aye.
And then what about, do we have to go over the fee structure for the replacement of bus passes? Should we do that now when we're
Yeah,
talking
you can
about
do that
this?
too. I would recommend that you allow for the makeup of a second one at no cost and thereafter $5 per, as we would
It
do
would be
with
something
anything else.
Yeah.
nominal.
Right.
It's-
Are you okay with all of that? Is everybody okay with that?
Unless, I'm fine with 5, I would even say that's just as a kind of, if it's, what does it cost us to reproduce?
Time, just time.
Yeah.
I mean, the cost of the product itself is not that expensive. It's just you gotta stop everything that you do and go on the computer,
Well,
put
It's
it
not
in.
a big
I was
deal.
thinking
Yeah, but
dollars.
then it's not a big deal, and you're
Right,
registering
parents
10
will-
to 1 kid.
All right. Usually
Come
I-
on,
So-
you-
We are going to-
Don't mess with me this week.
We are going to be children-friendly, we're going to be children-friendly, but we do have to send messages to adults that they have some
Right,
responsibility.
there's some
The
accountability.
thing is, I think it's not the adults losing, it's the children.
Right.
So,
Well,
That's true.
Maybe they'll make their children pay.
My daughter already lost hers.
Right,
Yeah, that's gonna be $5
When it
tonight.
was found in the parking lot, she already has it
Okay.
back.
Oh, there you go.
And may I add, it said she was in 4th grade, not 5th, so
Oh,
it's a
It was
lost-
probably from
it's a
last year.
lost
From last year.
erroneous
It was probably from
fact.
last year.
No, no. Teacher was right, it's the wrong day.
So what do you guys think about the fee then? Do we keep it 5? Do we lower it? What do you guys want to do?
Five's fine.
is good.
5, okay. So we need a motion, we will place the second bus pass. After that, it's a $5 for free. After that, it's a $5 charge.
Cut.
so moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those
I
opposed?
wasn't there for most of the
Aye.
discussions.
Okay.
401 on both, right? 401 on
You,
both?
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, one abstain. Where do we stand in, with the Bloom contract right now?
We're in the third year of a 3-year.
All right, so
Bye, Ms. Sullivan.
call them one more
Hold on,
time.
hold on.
Hi, Dr. Diana.
Bye, Dan.
Hi, Kathleen. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
I would suggest you call them one more time. If they don't call you back, then start seriously looking at numbers to privatize next year.
Well, we also, the contract is up, correct, this
Yeah, that's
year?
what I'm
So we
saying.
have
This
to,
is-
right,
I mean,
I
we
would.
have a 3-year contract with these guys, they won't call us back.
right, yeah, especially with all the issues that we've had. I mean,
Yeah.
so at this point, we're not looking at another bus, like what we talked about at our last
No,
meeting.
at this
We
time,
figured it out.
we're figuring it out.
Okay, well, thank you for all your work on that, yeah. Okay. Was that everything? I feel like I forgot something.
Well, we have more of an agenda to go.
Well, I know that. Okay. All right, personnel update, Dr. Bayetta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to go through and then enter into the record what you have in front of you, so that it's pretty clear to everyone. Specifically, I'd like to go to positions that the district no longer has and has not filled. So we'll start with Ms. Patricia Mahoney, .6 math teacher, position .6 not filled. That means 3 classes less of mathematics at the high school. Wendy Rockney, a Norton High School teacher who resigned from us, her position was only filled part-time. Again, budgetary, .5 of that position was not filled. Again, 3 classes of English not being able to be provided. When you go down to Tom Arietta's position, JCS music teacher. He was replaced with a .91 position, cutting a .09 FTE of that. Christopher Batinzi, Norton Middle School math and special ed teacher, are providing services within that department as well, not filled at 1.0 FTE. Mr. Michael McCarthy, wellness teacher at the high school, position not filled, 1.0 FTE. Norton High School wellness teacher, Mr. Matoiza, that is a bump coming through the middle school position, going to the high school, not filled, 1.0 position. That's a total of, teaching 5 out of 6. So that's a total of 5 physical education classes not available at the high school, and the middle school having an impact of the wellness curriculum now, health curriculum, not part of the PE program.
So you're saying he went to the high school to fill?
So we have a
vacancy
teacher
there.
here, Mr. May, who went to the high school. The impact is here, not at the high school, but it is a double impact. We have Diane Patton, high school art, .4 art teacher, not filled, .4 FTE. Tessa Perry, grade 1 teacher at the LGN, not filled, 1.0 FTE. Laura Zanowski, assistant director of special education, not filled, 1.0 FTE. Leaves of absence not filled at Norton Middle School, Mr. Cummings, Norton Middle School ELA, position not filled, thereby cutting 5 sections. The reduction of specials appointment by .2 in the wellness department, as noted. Second page, decrease in FTEs, PE for this year. Carrie Aruka's position not filled at .22 position. Kim Bray's position not filled at .09. Jennifer Crane's position not filled at .04. And Ms. Jill Robeski's position not filled at .02. Elimination of food services department. There was a bump, Ms. Almeida bumped to the high school, but therefore there's a full cut of the administrative assistant in food services of .8. And then the following not filled: Ms. Arajo, Ms. Sacaro, Bly, Bramwell, Butler, Catuto, Chiquette, Foley, Fonseca, Ford, Hebner, Patton, Joanne Petrelli, our food services director, Pryron, Ravad, Robichaud, Simmons, and Wilson, all employees of the food services. Total not filled academic coordinators, because we completely changed their job due to their request in order to continue to support the high schools. A total FTE of 1.6 FTE, because of the amount of time no longer devoted to the middle school and to the high school. Total educational not filled, 9.36 positions. Oh, by the way, before I get to that, elementary Norton Middle School unit leaders positions have still not been filled as of right now. We're still working with the union on that to see if we can find a financial way to have something to support the buildings. Educational positions not filled, 9.36. Other non-filled, food services, 18.8. Total positions not filled, combination 28.16. If you flip to the next page.
Before we move on, the unit leaders, do you know what that number is?
As an FTE, they're above and beyond the school day, so it's a stipend that goes above and beyond the school day.
Do
So
you know what
the
the
one-
number is, though, that, how many, like, what the actual cut would be if we cannot find a way to financially?
Well, the cut that we took was about $36,000 or so.
Okay.
So,
Do we have, what does that equate to in 1.0, 0.9?
about .8, I'd say, right in that facility. I mean, I can get you the actual dollar amount
Just
to
a rough
equate that.
slide, I just want to kind of, for my own edification.
So, in the next space, resignations, this is for our paraprofessionals, because this is going to be the talk of the town, I'm sure, moving forward, because we moved to part-time folks instead of full-time folks in positions that were in the budget, as voted and as required by the special education budget. And then we have, since then, people who have left. And you have the dates of their retirements and/or resignations from the district. As you can see, June 21st through September 7th for resignations, and same thing, May 5th and 18th, we knew those two, June 30th and September 7th, that came later. And again, you have the appointments below of .5s and a 1.0, and then you still have positions not filled to .5 as of today. And again, we always know that that number fluctuates because it's a required situation. So your FTEs right now would actually be at 28.66 not 28.16, because you'd add the other halftime as well. So we're fortunate in one way that in terms of resignations, I just want to go through this a little bit because I think it's important on the first page again. These positions were filled, but these are people that are left. Kathleen Adler, Elizabeth Ackerman, Stephanie Beatrice, Julie Boudreau, Brittany Conley, Aileen Costello, Ted Curley, Anthony DeFonso, Caitlin Green, Megan Lafayette, Lincoln Lynch, Patricia Mahoney, Callum Moran, Jacqueline O'Connor, Mark Parlon, Jacqueline Pigeon Martinez, Wendy Rockney, Michael Travers, and Joanne Whistler. Those are the folks that left us directly, and as you can see, the dates effective June 26th, June 21st, June 26th, June 21st, June 21st, August 28th, June 30th, August 28th, June 21st. I'm sure I probably should have known about those, according to somebody. July 20th, June 30th, June 21st, November 20th of the fall, the prior year, July 17th, July 27th, June 21st, June 21st, June 21st, June 21st. This is my 10th year as a superintendent. I've never had more resignations in the month of June, in July and August, as I did this year. So this is entered into the record. It's all here. This will be part of informational that will also be, now that you have it, also duplicated and provided to the Finance Committee. As you know, some of these things change. This does not currently include, and we will work to address this as well, maternity leaves and fill-ins that we have that are coming in. Some of them, I feel like daily. It's important to recognize that, yes, we have a line item for substitutes. And we try to use the prior year as a way to, keep our statistics, if you will, our finances aligned, but it's no different than an overtime account. We really don't know what it's going to be in a year. We take an educational guess, and to be quite honest, there's some years where we're right there, and there's some years we have to move money from other accounts, which means it hurts other accounts. So just going on the record for that. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just so that people sort of in our community would understand. So Patricia Mahoney was a not filled .6 math teacher
Right.
at the high school.
Correct.
Christopher Batsney was sort of 1.0
.0 math,
So
yep.
how exactly does that impact if we're potentially looking at 2 math teachers at the high school who haven't been
So when was it?
rehired? So I know you said for the .6, that's 3 less math classes.
And then and then there's that's Tenzi's a middle school.
Okay.
So that's another 5 sections
Mhm.
not offered. So that means class sizes, and at the middle school, it's a less of an impact, but it also means how we deliver the services becomes an issue. At the high school, it's a direct impact to class size. Hence the reason why you'll be getting a report probably after October 1st, because that's usually when I do it for you in terms of enrollment. We'll get a high school report and a class size report probably for the second meeting in October, which talks about how many classes do we have yet again, once again, after 3 years of working to get rid of classrooms with 30 kids. We're back to 30 kids.
Well, 3 classes at the high school being eliminated, I can't imagine where those kids go.
They pack into other classes, that's what happens. Or if it's special, it impacts specials as well.
Mhm.
Kids can't get the specials that they'd like to study prior to
Right.
considering college or so on.
Any other questions or comments?
So, one thing I want to highlight, and first I want to make sure I have it right, and then I want to highlight it. The paraprofessionals, where we've lost 11, hired 10 and a half, I want to highlight that these are mandate positions, so they're not
Correct.
positions that we can't. And the reason I want to highlight that is because it kind of brings to light again my suggestion that we really need to separate our budget into 2 different budgets. They're treated differently. They can't be operated the same way. It doesn't make sense to have them as one unified budget. So I strongly suggest that this budget season, we have 2 separate budgets, because we are actually running 2 separate schools. I get that we're one district, we're all the same physical buildings, but there are 2 different businesses being run here under 2 different sets of rules. We have to separate these 2 out. We can't continue to do it under one unified budget. It doesn't make sense.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
I have one question too. I know that we asked the food service company that came in to try to hire our
Yes.
people. How many of them?
There was 11 at the last count that I had. I'm pretty sure that number's still the same. And they are in fact, because they had more than 50% of the employees that were with us want to join that, they are currently negotiating a union contract with Chartwell's, the private company.
Okay.
So this may work out for them.
They're negotiating working conditions and salaries and all, healthcare and all that stuff,
Okay.
under different rules because it's private versus public, but
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did you, 11?
I believe it's 11, yes. Pretty sure it's 11. I can get you the actual number.
Anything else? Okay. All right, next, comparable financials report, Dr. Byetta.
Thank you. So I've been asked numerous times through the school committee about taking a look at some of our financials, and really wanted to share, as we all know, some comparisons that were made at two different meetings as provided as information. And I just want to go on the record that the utilizing of school choice money as part of net school spending, or to present it as part of an increase to a budget, violates the school choice mandates that have been instituted since school choice started. In particular, and I'll read into the record, expenditures made from the revolving fund for school choice tuition revenue do not count toward meeting a district's net school spending requirement, because the spending requirement relies upon local tax effort, and school choice revenue is derived from other communities, not from this community. So I always take exception, as you all know, year after year in every place that I've worked, about how we can put it into a discussion of how much of an increase the school system is getting. That is not money that comes from the Norton taxpayer. So I just want to make sure that we have a discussion at some point. What I decided to do, based upon the information that the school committee had asked that I put together in comparables, is I went through and I looked at 2017 actual Department of Revenue, DESE audited school district financials that we have on our website through the Transparency Center, through ClearGov, which is the third-party private organization, if you will, business, that compiles this for both school districts and towns. So our comparisons, as you look at it from the financials, and I've got some cleaning up here that I'll be doing based upon some requests that have already come in from the chair earlier today, is to really take a look at what we're expending as a community using what we actually expended from all accounts. So this plays into everything from fees to choice to free and reduced lunch, lunch programs, grant programs, you name it, it's part of this discussion. And the communities that we were compared to in prior discussions was Norton, Easton, Foxborough, Mansfield. So that's what I did for these actual expenditures. So the closest community in terms of number of students for 2017 to Norton is Foxborough, okay? So you've got 2,501 students in 2017 in Norton, you got 2,601 in Foxborough. Your total employees in Norton, 311, 100 more students, but Foxborough has 365 employees. We spent all in, 36.7 million. Foxborough spent 44.8 million for 100 more students. Then you have the breakdown of how much the towns provide for the school budget versus how much comes from the state. Clearly, our numbers are flipped. So you have municipal contribution to Norton is at, or the town contribution is at 53.10% of the total, versus Foxborough at 71.2%, Easton at 71.2%, or Mansfield at 58.8%. Anywhere from roughly 5.7% to double digits. State aid is flipped, so 37.3, so for Norton versus 21% for Foxborough. So this is the perfect example of the comment that I make all the time. It's that ability to pay statement. So what you have here is communities that we're on our way down in terms of the state aid, and the towns being asked to pick up more. That's how this, if you will, this works. What's really important that goes with this page is on the next page, when you look at the audited expenditures, and you look at all of the different areas, and you have a $36.7 million Norton total versus Foxborough 44.7, Mansfield at 62.6 million, Easton at 51, is you have the breakdown of how this happens in terms of leadership, other instructional leadership, operations, pupil services, out of district, which is our highest number of the four, benefits, which are not negotiated by the Norton School Committee, instruction, which is direct instruction in the classroom, and just be mindful that under leadership, our leadership also really underneath this, and I'll be working with Matt on this in the future, we really need to take a look at how it's divided into the instructional side. For example, in terms of Jen's office, in terms of Karen's office, they may all be 100% under leadership, but the fact is they're providing services directly to the classroom, which is one of the things that will change as part of this. Our benefits are the higher, 16.2%. Student performance, to be quite honest, happy to say that we perform at or near the other communities in terms of our SAT scores, and our college placement is actually 2 and 4 year, I should say, is actually the second highest on the list, just behind Easton at 92.10%. You have the pay scales for staff. You can look at this in so many directions, but the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, scales are hard to compare. But in Norton, a teacher with a master's degree this year starts at $45,629 in their first year, versus in Easton, in their current contract, which is not yet negotiated, so this is last year's number, it's $50,000, it's already $5,000 more. It's $55,000 in Foxborough, and using the same scale, it's $48,000 in Mansfield. And if you look all the way down, you'll see that Mansfield's salary scale is significantly higher towards the end because of some of the bumps and stuff that they have in theirs. I think the last page is the most important page to discuss, and that is that when you look at that first page, there's a couple of sections that say not applicable. This proves to you a couple of things. We have communities that have no fees for transportation and no fees for athletics, specifically Foxborough. So their fees structures are going to be totally different than we are in terms of the day-to-day. Lastly, and you don't have this, I looked at total expenditures from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the four communities. And since 2008, the town of Easton has increased its per pupil expenditure by $3,484, excuse me. Foxborough by $5,516, Mansfield by $5,210, and Norton by $3,142. We are the only community during that time that actually has 2 years, 2010 and 2013, differences that are actually in the negative. So you have communities that range from only $90 per student increase to as much as $768, that's Easton, over that time period. You have Foxborough that goes from no less than $140 per student to as much as $938 per student increase. You have Mansfield on the low end of $390 and on the high end of $954. And you have Norton negative $488 to the high end of $859. So it is impossible to compare some of these numbers, except to say that if you look at a negative 353 per student and a negative 488 4 years later, that's a negative $841 over that span of time, or approximately, using our current enrollment, of $2.1 million less. It's interesting how it always adds up to that O word that we had a couple of years ago and the total amount that we said we're off by. It just lines up every single time in every discussion that we have. So I'll put this together through some recommendations that came earlier tonight from the chair and the vice chair when I met, in terms of just being some clarity around what does municipal mean. That's town provides. I'll clear that up. Municipal contribution per year, per student, I'll add that in there. I think, then as you mentioned this too, I think on an email. Tuition, maybe noting that that is for us, it might be things like preschool and international students. For somebody else, it could also include full day K, and so forth. And some of these are not applicable because those numbers are not yet available. So I continue to work to try to find those.
Does anybody have any, we talked about it earlier, that, the last page, kind of a nice neat grid, kind of putting the whole thing
Yep.
in a form like that. So it's easy to see, it's easy to understand, it's easy to share with the public so that they get a complete representation of how Norton compares to the other surrounding towns.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say anymore, to be honest with you. I just don't understand how this isn't getting grasped. The number to me that is the most telling is on the, I guess, called the second page, not the cover page, but when we look at our municipal contributions, and then underneath that, where it says per year, I think that's per student as well.
Per year, per student.
Right.
Per student. We're at 7,800, Easton's at 9,800, Mansfield's at 9,400, and Voxworth's at 12,100. At 7,800, the municipal contribution to our children's education is 20% lower than the next lowest number. I forget about what Foxborough is doing. I mean, at some point, we have to take care of our own. We can't keep shortchanging the children of this town. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know what to say. The numbers are numbers. You can stand up and make a great speech and have colorful language, but in the end, the numbers are the facts. I just don't understand the absolute insistence on not believing it. I don't get it anymore.
So I think that's why we asked for all this information to be put together in kind of a nice neat package.
Yeah.
Because, back in the spring, when the town manager first did his meeting with townspeople to go over this, I think there was more to the picture that needed to be added. So I think that when you put this, on like the last page where it's in a nice neat box, and you see all of these, compared to each other, I think when we get that out to the public, it's gonna be a little bit eye-opening, I would think. I don't know how seeing this information, even in the kind of raw form that we have it right now, is an eye-opepening.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you can't see the difference between Norton and Foxborough, which we're really, our student number and staff number, well, staff is off, but is so close, and then you go to the back, and we
Right.
have fee, and they have nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess that's kind of where I'm going with this, though. I think there are plenty of people in the public who get it, but there are a lot of people in town government, I guess you'd say, where they've seen these numbers, and I don't think they understand them, quite frankly.
But I think it's gonna be up to the public to start asking the questions.
They either don't understand them or they're being dishonest, one of the two. And it's, right, because there's this insistence that somehow we're doing really well, and I just don't get that. I don't see it. So,
Well, it's frustrating because we continue to say this, but I guess no matter how many times we put it together in a neat little package, some just refuse to see it, believe it, whatever.
that's what I'm getting at.
Right, but I
Just
do
don't
think that if
accept
we
it.
get the public involved and start asking questions, that maybe they will show up at town meeting and start asking the questions that need to be asked.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'll be continuing to work on this as well in terms of trying to explain line items, and we'll post it on our own webpage, because it is one of the things we try to do is when we have presentations is put them up there and of course be able to substantiate this. I think the only way to compare apples to apples is you have to look at expenditures from audited numbers. The audited numbers are not my numbers. I didn't take a number and in any way, shape, or form take a decimal point and move it or a comma. I just took the number that was provided to me, 36.7. We find out later that 36.7 actually means on the next page 36.716.0018. I just left everything the way it was. I just want to go into the record for that. I do think it's important to recognize that if you don't do it that way, then, in my opinion, regardless of what department it is, including the one that I'm responsible for, we're just throwing things at a wall and hoping that it sticks.
Yeah.
And in this case, the sticking on the wall, I guess, is I guess it's working for some.
So our benefits are higher than anybody else. You say not negotiated by the NSC. Who negotiates that?
The what?
The benefits that
That's
are higher than everybody else.
negotiated by the town side.
Thank you.
Dr. Bennett, I have one quick question.
Yeah.
So, in the past, we've looked at districts where we're comparable in the numbers and enrollment and things like that. So, if it's possible, like to say, I think East Bridgewater was the one that we were closest at when we have this transparency. Is there a way, like, how would those numbers look as far as?
It depends, so,
comparable?
right, so if you look at, for example, if you look at comparable districts in terms of how academically our students do, that's one thing you can look at. And then you can go from there and look at all your financials. You can do the opposite. You can look at high needs, special education, free and reduced lunch, minority. You can look at any of those 10 areas, if you will. Curriculum, college placement, SAT scores, AP scores. We can look at any of those as the priority score to look at, and then look at comparable districts. We have 10 districts that we're compared to in the DART tool from DESE, which includes curriculum instruction, out of district, students' scores and all that stuff. Demographics is part of that, so you actually see in that list a district that might have 2,500 kids with a district that has 4,200 kids. Just because you compare on a significant number of things, but maybe not necessarily directly financial. People in Norton love to talk about North Attleboro because it has the lowest per pupil expenditure in this area. And until recently, where it passed an override, and you're going to see those numbers. You know what the most interesting number is, and I haven't shared this with you, but because I need to analyze it more. But in 2008, the following was the per pupil expenditure, all expenditures, total in. 2008, ready? Lowest, Mansfield, 9,246. Second lowest, Easton, 9,608. Third lowest, Foxborough, 10,541. Highest, 10,780, Norton. In 8 years, this is all flipped. They've gone right past us, and we've gone, in terms of some of these numbers, even lower. Easton is the one comparable community in terms of, because they're now considered the lowest per pupil in the area. And again, some of these numbers we do not control. When you look at the breakdown of, for example, things like benefits, we don't control that. Out of district can be very difficult to control. We've done a nice job in bringing programs in, starting our own programs. We've had some hiccups. Last year was a perfect example. I call it a hiccup because we had move-ins and situations happen that we just couldn't handle, or weren't prepared to handle for whatever reasons. So I think it's important to just, we can make any statistical number go in any direction that we want. I could say 68% of the students who took the AP got a passing score. You could also say 32% didn't. Right? It's, why don't we sit down and talk about what are the needs, put together a strategic plan, and move forward with those needs. I'm not suggesting, and we'll never suggest that the school department is my responsibility through you to run, but the fact is, we need a financial plan to move forward for everybody. That's what I'm asking for, and I will, to be quite honest, purposely be asking for that as part of the next budget season.
Anything else? No. All right, superintendent's goals for 2018-19, Dr. Bayetta.
Thank you. You have to vote on these. These are the goals. As noted, number one, student learning. I want to at least twice during the year provide you with an update on our implementation of social, emotional, and behavioral learning guidelines for pre-K to 12. As you know, Carolyn represented the group at the kickoff. Jean Sullivan will be presenting you next month with the draft report from that meeting and the subcommittees and what we're already tackling. Myself, Jen, and Jean are actually going through some training with other districts. Actually, I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's nationally, it's not just Massachusetts, where we're working to see what are the best practices that are happening in other districts. Our second goal for student learning goal is to strategize and develop an internal data-driven decision-making process for students. You'll be hearing from Jen next month about the implementation of asking parents about our SEL surveys with individual students and tracking students or collecting data from students individually, which will require parental permission. And actually, because we're going to the parents, actually requires your permission as well. And then developing our data from that. So the report card, discipline report card, the teacher input, potentially parent input as well. But then how are students responding to things like grit and how they feel about their awareness within the school community and so on and so forth, the self-reporting. Really excited about that because it's an area that I think we can do a lot of help with long-term. Goal number 3, professional practice, is to complete with you or for you learning walks with a full data report. This is an area that I think I actually, last year with all the stuff going on, I kind of let slip somewhat, so I want to go back to doing learning walks. Learning walks are not about reporting back about how a teacher's doing. It's about going to multiple classrooms in one day and saying, so what are the kids getting today in the school? What's it look like? Is there too much lecture? Is it too much, it's too much this, it's too much that? It's, oh, look at all the great stuff we're doing. You know, we're doing a lot of this and a lot and so on and so forth. And we'd be looking at all classrooms in the district. And that will involve our administrators as well. Goal number 4 is to continue these school and culture climate committees and to report back through our staff and our parents the Panorama Education Surveys and provide with you an executive report on what our parents are saying. We're going to do our parents in the spring so that you get the report towards the late spring about what are they thinking about our schools and how we're doing and so on. And that will become a formal, every single year published report. And then complete the portrait of a graduate competencies. We'll do that by this November. That's taking a look at what are the competency skills that we want involved. If I remember, Carolyn was involved in that as well. In terms of what are those competent skills that from pre-K to 12 we want every kid to have. So we came up with 18 on a list. We brought that down to 10. And now we're asking our staff, our parents, and our students to say which ones are the 6 most important that we really did. So global awareness, responsibility is for example, is one of them. So we'll report out on that, some of those findings for you, and that group will do that. And then complete by December a new strategic plan called Vision 2021, which will include what are our strategic things that we want to complete over the next 3 years. What are the most important things for us, which can include the financial which can include actually a discussion on financials, but also should include, so where do we want to be in 3 years? And it doesn't have to be financial. It can be other things that we want to change our approach. And if there's changes you'd like to make to this, I'm more than willing to hear that as well.
Any thoughts or questions or no? Okay. So you want us to vote on this? Do we have
Please.
to vote by? Can we just vote
To
for the
accept.
superintendent's goals?
Yep.
Not each
Correct.
goal.
Correct.
Okay. So a
Superintendent's
motion
goals.
to approve the superintendent's goals 2018-19.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
And policy manual.
Here it is.
Back to the-
Here it is. So it's here. We have a bunch of these. It is all here.
Oh my goodness.
And it'll be online in about, Ms. Rand will support me, I think, about approximately 90 days. And it'll be linked so that we can actually, when we have an update through you, we can just go in, make the change, and it's all there. So from now on, when we have recommendations from the state on policies we have to update, it'll make it a lot easier. And then for the hard copy one, we'll just be able to print out the page and switch the page out.
And each school is getting a hard copy.
So eventually what will happen is copies will be made for each of the schools. The debate that I have is why do we need copies in the school when it's going online? It's going to be on our webpage, and we can actually link it through, it'll be linked under you folks, the school committee, because it really is one of the things that belongs to you folks by statute.
Wow, great.
Okay, and I want to thank,
I know, I'm glad.
I want to thank the committee. I want to thank Ms. Stern in particular, who met with specifically a lot with Jen and myself, but also the business office, it was Link at the time, Jean's office, Karen's office, and Wade's office that were all in some way, shape, or form communicated and asked to read a section and give feedback on it, so
Yeah.
thank you so much.
A lot of work, thank you.
It's a great, I know it's just policy, but one of those things we have to do, so.
Okay, and then is there anything under other business tonight?
I just want to notify the school committee, if I may, that tonight, I would ask that you consider, based upon an emergency situation at the LGN, we have a pipe, a heating pipe at the LGN under the floor, long hallway, across from the gym, that has been an ongoing issue. It's a 1960 pipe, it's a hot water pipe, and the expansion joints on it are just literally popping. And what's happening is we've Band-Aided it and Band-Aided it, and the water now is just by the gallons, just dropping underneath that building. So what we'd like to do is, Monday night, is request a capital improvement recommendation of up to $30,000 for our plumber to be able to take that, eliminate it out of the floor and actually run it up on the ceiling side, which is what a lot of older buildings have, for example, the Hay has. And it's a problem because we're concerned about once the actual heat is on, that those joints are just gonna be popping. That's a recommendation coming from Wade's office, and an estimated cost, we're trying to get an actual cost from our plumber, because our plumber won the bid, so we have to utilize that plumber to do the work, because it's part of the bid. He's noting it now at between 25 and 30K, so by Monday night, I'm hoping to be able to have that, so, okay?
Okay.
All right, just, it's one of those things where you're Band-Aiding, and eventually the Band-Aids don't work anymore.
Right.
And lastly, I just wanted to notify you, and I believe I did via email, but I have asked both the middle school and the high school to give me a group of students to become part of the Superintendent's Advisory Committee, a committee that will meet 4 to 6 times a year. I'll probably provide them food. The names have come forward. We're not looking for the honor roll student, although we may have honor roll, so we're looking for students that are willing to talk about the school department. What's good, what's bad, what can we improve, what we can do better. It's not about talking about teachers, we can talk about homework, we can talk about technology, we can talk about buses, we can talk about sports, we can talk about the running of the school day and all that stuff. So that advisory group right now is at 14 students. Most of the students coming out of the high school, but I did add students from the middle school as well. So I'm hoping, hopefully, they don't even know who they are yet. They haven't gotten the invitation yet. Those will go out the week after next.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
And I'll report back on those as well.
And what about
We should
the
have
medical?
meeting.
Huh?
I think we should have them come to the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
They can present their findings.
You know what? I bet you they come up with some serious stuff.
We need a new superintendent.
What about the medical emergency response plan that?
That's a piece of information for you to have that I had to file.
Okay.
I think the last thing is, I just want to thank Terry and Donna, who have taken the lead in filling in for the time being anyways, hopefully for the year, but we'll see. And I appreciate them taking their time away from their family to be here and do the notes and all that stuff for the school committee.
Definitely. Thank you. We'll just mention our next meeting is October 11th at the J.C. Salmonese Elementary School. Does anybody have anything else?
Unfortunately, I will be missing that one.
Okay. All right, so can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting and go into executive session for the purpose of litigation, and we will not be returning after executive session?
So moved.
Terry, we have to do a roll call.
All right,
Roll call vote. Sherry Cohen?
Yes.
Do we need a second on the motion first?
Yeah, you need a second on the
Did you just do
motion.
that?
I had moved it.
Emotion.
No one seconded.
Oh, okay,
Second.
second, sorry.
Okay.
Now we're ready? Thank God you're here, Denise.
Roll call.
Sherry Cohen?
Yes.
Kathleen Stern?
Yes.
Denise Savas?
Yes.
Carolyn Gallagher?
Yes.
And Nancy Keith.
Yes.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.